The cafe floated at the edge of the Andromeda Gateway, a crystalline structure suspended between stars where 1,000 species mingled in uneasy peace. Jathira sat in the corner booth designed for her kind, wide enough to accommodate her massive wings, now folded uselessly against her scaled back. The dragon woman's emerald scales had lost their luster, and her amber eyes stared emptily at the swirling nebula, visible through the transparent aluminum walls. She had been a warrior once. A Drakheim fleet commander who had burned entire armadas with her plasma breath, whose wings had carried her through the void itself. That was before the Battle of Epsilon 7, before the human kinetic weapon had shattered her spine, leaving her lower body completely paralyzed and her wings mere decorative appendages incapable of generating the anti-gravity fields that once let her soar. The cafe buzzed with the usual afternoon crowd, Zenthari merchants with their 6 arms juggling datapads, methane breathers in their containment suits, even a few collective drones updating their neural networks, but none approached her table. They never did. To most species, a disabled warrior was an object of pity or shame, something to be ignored. Jathira raised her claw-like hand, ordering another cup of Rigelian dark matter tea through the holographic menu. The liquid helped dull the phantom sensations where her legs should have responded. She had been sitting here for 3 standard hours, as she did every day, because her military pension gave her nothing else to do and nowhere else to go. "Excuse me, ma'am." The voice was human, that curious species that had erupted onto the galactic stage barely 2 centuries ago with their chemical rockets and atomic weapons, somehow surviving conflicts with civilizations millions of years their senior. Jathira didn't look up. She had no desire for confrontation. "My daughter wanted to ask you something, if that's all right." Now Jathira raised her head. A human male stood before her, perhaps in his 4th decade by their reckoning. He wore a worn jacket with faded military insignia she recognized. The Terra Defense Corps, the same military branch responsible for her condition. His right arm was cybernetic, the metal polished but clearly old model. Beside him stood a small human child, perhaps 7 standard years, with dark hair and eyes wide with wonder. "Anna," the man said gently, his hand resting on the girl's shoulder. "Go ahead." The child stepped forward, clutching a small stuffed creature, some earth animal called a rabbit. "Are you a real dragon?" Anna asked, her voice filled not with fear but with breathless curiosity. Jathira blinked. In 2 years of sitting in this cafe, no one had directly addressed her except the serving drones. "I am Drakheim," she said carefully, her translator implant rendering her words in standard galactic. "Your species calls us dragon people, yes. You're beautiful," Anna said simply. "Can I sit with you?" The veteran, Kanat, she would learn his name was, looked apologetic. "Anna's been fascinated with dragons since she discovered Earth mythology. When she saw you, she insisted, 'We can leave if we're disturbing you.'" Something in Jathira's chest, something she thought had died at Epsilon 7, stirred. "No," she heard herself say. "The child may sit." Anna scrambled into the booth across from her, Kanat sliding in beside his daughter with the cautious movements of someone whose body remembered combat. He kept his cybernetic arm visible, not threatening but not hiding it either. "I'm Anna," the girl announced, "and this is my papa Kanat." "He was a soldier. Were you a soldier too?" "Anna," Kanat warned gently. "It's acceptable," Jathira said. "Yes, small one. I was a commander. I fought in many battles. Papa fought in battles too. He says soldiers from different sides can still be friends after the fighting stops." "Is that true?" Jathira's gaze shifted to Kanat. The human met her eyes steadily. Not with pity, she realized, but with recognition. He understood. He had seen the same darkness, carried the same weight. "I lost my arm at Epsilon 7, Kanat said quietly. "Artillery strike. I heard the Drakheim fleet lost many warriors there too." "I lost more than an arm," Jathira replied, her voice bitter. "I can see that." Kanat's tone held no judgment. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. That battle shouldn't have happened. Command failures on both sides." Anna, oblivious to the weight of the conversation, had pulled out a data pad. "Papa lets me draw." "Can I draw you, please?" Jathira found herself nodding. As the child's fingers danced across the screen, Kanat ordered drinks, hot chocolate for Anna, coffee for himself. And another dark matter tea for Jathira without asking. Anna lost her mother last year, Kanat said softly, watching his daughter draw. Cancer, the treatments, they didn't work. I retired from service to care for her full time. And yet she smiles, Jathira observed. She's teaching me how, Kanat admitted. Some days are harder than others. But she wakes up every morning determined to find something wonderful in the universe. Like dragons in cafes. Look, Anna turned the pad around. She had drawn Jathira, but not as she was now. The child had depicted her with wings spread wide, breathing fire into space, surrounded by stars. In the corner, a small stick figure Anna and Kanat waved up at the magnificent creature. This is how I see you, Anna said proudly. Jathira stared at the image, and for the first time in 2 years felt heat behind her eyes, the Drakheim equivalent of tears. I cannot fly anymore, little one. My wings are broken. But you're still a dragon, Anna insisted with the absolute certainty only children possess. Dragons are brave and strong, and you're here, and that means you're still fighting. Right, Papa? Kanat nodded slowly. The hardest battles aren't always in space, ma'am. Sometimes just getting up each morning is an act of courage. Jathira looked at this human veteran who could have hated her, who had every reason to walk past her table. Instead, he sat across from her with his daughter, treating her not as a defeated enemy or broken warrior, but simply as another person fighting to survive. My name is Jathira, she said formally. Would you both join me again tomorrow? Anna's face lit up like a supernova. Yes, can we, Papa? Please? Kanat smiled, tired, sad, but genuine. We'd be honored, Commander Jathira, as they talked about Earth mythology, about the differences between human and Drakheim culture, about Anna's school and Kanat's work as a veterans counselor. Something fundamental shifted in Jathira's universe. These humans, these supposedly primitive beings whose weapons had crippled her, were teaching her something her ancient proud species had never understood. Humans didn't survive because they were the strongest or the fastest. They survived because they refused to abandon each other, even across the lines of former enemies. They survived because a child could see beauty in a broken warrior, and a veteran could see a person instead of an enemy. When they finally parted, Anna hugged Jathira's claw gently, and the dragon woman found she didn't pull away. The next day, Jathira arrived at the cafe early. When Kanat and Anna appeared, they brought another human, a therapist specializing in spinal reconstruction. Within months, Jathira was undergoing experimental treatments, partially funded by human veterans organizations. She never flew again, not like before. But she learned to walk with assistance, and more importantly, she learned that being whole had nothing to do with wings. Every afternoon, 3 figures could be seen at that corner booth, a dragon woman, a veteran, and a little girl, proving that sometimes humanity's greatest weapon wasn't kinetic force or plasma fire. It was simply the refusal to let anyone sit alone.